Hello and welcome to GAMA Expo Plus. This is the last of our streams covering everything that you're missing at GAMA Expo 2025. I'm Sage Ryan.
I'm Carlos Luna.
And we are joined by Andrew Zarwitz to talk about Foam Brain, to talk about the convention, to talk about a little bit of everything.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and chat a little bit about what's going on.
Thank you so much for being here. Last year at GAMA, I believe was actually the first time that we met because Foam Brain was one of my favorite booths. You always have something so fun going on.
That's so sweet. We really try to make sure we always have fun, cool, new, innovative things.
I cannot imagine what it's like coordinating, doing something kind of above and beyond. Like, already there's so many factors that go into putting together a booth. I know you guys do fun things at a lot of conventions. What has been a favorite activation that y'all have done?
So obviously Pin Bazaar, which is our pin trading program, is my absolute favorite activation, and we get to do that at Origins and Gen Con.
Ooh.
And then past that, I don't know, we've done a lot of fun things. We have a gigantic 5-foot-tall mystery loot in our booth, which has other mystery loots inside of it as a mystery.
I remember claw machines. Am I right?
Oh, I love the claw machines.
The claw machines are so cool.
Wait, what are the claw machines?
They're actual claw machines at the booths, like a row of them.
We had a bank of them. We have a bank of them at some of our shows.
That's awesome. Now, are they like set up where you can actually win stuff, though?
Absolutely. Are they easy? No,
but you can do it.
But we make sure that like they're not entirely unfair.
Good,
not the ones that are like loosened a little bit where it'll start to pick it up.
Oh, it's even crazier. You can actually set in the programming on claw machines.
Really?
How often they'll try to pick it up.
Whoa.
I'm giving away the deep dark secrets of industry.
Machine industry. That's great. Well, in case somebody at home is not familiar with Foam Brain overall, can you give us like the Foam Brain elevator pitch?
So we are one of the largest dice and accessory manufacturers that there is. We produce a tremendous amount of dice, enamel pins, trays, all kinds of cool stuff. Our number one product is our mystery loots, which are blind bags filled with usually dice and enamel pins, and sometimes pinatures, which are pins that become miniatures.
They're so fun. I still have mine from last year. It's a very, very cool concept. A pinature. It has a little stand that stands up from the pin, so you can pin it on you, take it with you,
and
take off the pin, stand it up, use it as a miniature.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
They're so much fun to play with.
Yeah. Well, what's some current stuff going on?
Yeah, what do you have going on 2025 at GAMA?
So we announced, we released 2 products on Tuesday. We released our Pathfinder class pins, which are based on the new book symbols, and they look so good. They're a cool technique we came up with. It's a combination of enamel and UV printing to get a kind of 3D effect while still having that like nice enamel look to it.
Oh, okay.
And we also released our first Cyberpunk mystery loot, which has pinatures and cyberware tokens.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
That's very cool. And do you have anything fun planned, like anything that you can talk about for the future? I know you have some secrets.
Anything you can hint at, like if you had to pick 2 emojis, maybe. What 2 emojis might you pick?
2025 seems to be the year of me getting to play in the sandbox of the kinds of games that I remember like playing when I was coming up in the industry when I was a kid.
Okay.
We're doing a project with the company of the very first hobby game I ever played.
Wow.
Okay.
That's the one I'm not allowed to talk about.
It's okay.
Secrets?
We're going to talk to your biographer right after this. They're going to fill us in on the first hobby game you played.
We'll put it together.
Yes.
There you go. We're doing some stuff with Steve Jackson Games. We're making pins for Munchkin.
Nice.
And some stuff for both Munchkin and GURPS. We're doing more stuff with Pathfinder. We're doing more stuff with Cyberpunk. We just have so much cool stuff coming out this year.
Wow, what a big year. And this is, I guess, going to a slightly more personal side, but how did you get into games?
Yeah.
So, I've always been involved in games, but the very first memory is my cousin, who's about 6 years older than me, played games. You know, he was into the hobby gaming world back before it was cool in, like, the mid-'90s. Yeah. And so we'd go visit them for Thanksgiving, and so he would show me, like, the cool things he was doing, LARPing, board games, and that was like really my first introduction to hobby gaming.
Yeah, very similar. I also had a cousin that was into board games and like TTRPGs in the mid-'90s. And like, while I didn't get into it at that time, I remember he had the coolest stuff. Like, I remember cassettes, like VHS and games was like a thing for a hot minute. And I thought he was so cool for having those.
Oh, I remember those VHS games.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Like Nightmare and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I thought
those
that
were
was
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
I feel like the modern equivalent of that now is we're seeing a lot of people that have those like iPad components to it, where there is an app that accompanies it.
Yeah.
I feel like the start of that would have been those like VHS and cassette tapes.
Is it really as much fun as like fast forwarding back and forth to try to find the like solution to the murder or whatever?
Cranking it backwards. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a little bit more efficient, but only a touch. Only a little bit, I suppose. And then, please go ahead.
Yeah, can you talk about, like, are you involved at all in, like, the creative process that comes into, like, making some of these products? Like, how does that work? Is it just, like, you guys have an idea, or do they come with an idea to you, or do you guys, like, work together?
So it depends a lot on the property, but a lot of times we come up with the idea. You know, we find a product or property we want to work with, and then we sit around and we kind of, like, pitch ideas. We write up kind of a proposal. We send it to them. We usually have between 2,000 and 10,000 meetings, and then hopefully, we end up coming up with a product that we're excited about and they're excited about and represents their brand well and our brand well, and then we make it.
Yeah, and partnerships can be hard because, like, they have to learn about you have to learn about them, and, like, all the do's and don'ts of their own property. And the longer that property's been around, the harder it is to, like, learn all the little rules that your company might not know at all.
Yeah.
And we always want to be very respectful of their property, make sure our feel is there. So, when we're working with Cyanide and Happiness, we always want it to be, like, edgy and a little bit off the wall, because that's what their property should feel like.
Yeah.
And then when we work with Pathfinder, Pathfinder is high fantasy. We want it to, like, have that very, like, traditional, beautiful feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for how you do manage those, like, relationships and IPs, or, like, questions that if somebody else is kind of working in this industry? Because the fun thing about this kind of stream, as opposed to it being more consumer focused, is, like, these are the people that do what we do. Do you have any advice for people in navigating working with others' IPs?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Like, anything, I feel like there's probably a million things in anything we do that's like, oh, I wish somebody had told me that, or like, oh, I never would have thought of, like, this weird question that I had to ask them.
Or, like, do you know things that, like, brands are concerned about? Like, you would find it, like, a total, like, misstep if you were to pitch this idea to this type of brand, because
we have the most success when it's a brand that somebody at the company is passionate about.
Okay.
It doesn't always have to be me, but somebody is, like, really, truly, and somebody gets, we have, like, a product expert who can sit there and be like, this is the tone and this is what this brand feels like to me, and the emotional level at this brand, and how do we capture that in our product.
That makes a lot of sense, like, because they're already, like, in the culture of whatever that brand might be.
Somebody who's already a fan has that idea of, like, we're trying to figure out how to do justice to those fans. And if you're in that, it's like, it has to fulfill that for you as the fan. Like, what's going to make you happy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And fans have their own language, right? Mm-hmm. They have their own, like, inside jokes. They have their own, like, things. Like, I know whenever I'll start a new show and I'll be on, like, season 3 of it, and then I check Reddit or something, I'm like, oh, I understand it now. Like, I get why that's fun.
And that's definitely part of it, right? When we're talking about a property, we, watch a lot of media, we read through the books, we really want to try to make sure we understand not just, like, the very surface level, what is this property, but also, like, what do the fans want? How do people want to interact with it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
That's very cool. I want to go back to the mystery bags. I love little mystery goodies. I could spend all of my money on it. I'm somebody that in a store has to, like, turn away. I have to turn away. And I like that there's something, like, practical that I can use in it, because a lot of mystery things are just, like, stuff, as opposed to, like, dice I'm going to use, figures I'm going to use.
What's
right?
the rules that go into making a box?
That's what I want to know. Tell me my odds.
So a lot of for us, we don't randomize what you are going to get by, like, the kind of thing, right? So, like, if we have a mystery loot, it's always going to be a pin, or a pin and a piece and a die, or a set of dice.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't want you to just, like, get stuff. We want you to know what that stuff is. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes we do rarity, sometimes we don't, depending on, like, the property, or depending on, honestly, sometimes how we feel about it, or what our idea is, or what our concept is.
Yeah. Okay. There's no gaming that system. All right.
No.
I thought I'd find something out. I don't know. Try it for next time.
I mean, be friends with us before we pack them. That's the way to game the system.
Is it really?
Yay.
Do you guys mark them ever?
What's that?
Do you ever
no,
mark?
no,
you ever,
no.
you ever just put like a little?
set that one aside for me, you know.
Do we mark them? No. Do we sometimes have boxes of everything in our office, and can we make one that is especially good? I mean, definitely not. Except yes, probably.
Very good to know.
That's
Your
good
email's
to
going to
know.
be flooded after this.
Probably.
It's just going to be people like, hey, super random, but I heard you might have, I don't know. Is this, somebody was saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Okay, we talked about what's coming out in 2025. What might be coming out? What are some like white whales out there for you? What are some like, man, I'm really in love with this property. I would love for one day, and it might be one that you can't say because you might be close, but also just one that like, it's not even on anyone's
White whale
radar.
property, not on anybody's radar.
No one's radar.
No plans, no ideas.
Yeah.
And the reason that I haven't even talked to anybody about it is I don't even know what we would do with this property.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I have become obsessed with Severance.
We're obsessed with Severance.
We're obsessed with Severance. We're obsessed with
When he was talking about looking up a show on Reddit to get it, he meant Severance.
I meant Severance. Absolutely.
I don't know, and I like. There's nothing right. There can't be a role-playing game because either you don't know the mystery, or once they reveal the mystery, what's the game going to be about? And until then, what's the game going to be about?
Yes.
It's just roll the ball on the table.
I don't know that there's enough cool merch things, but maybe there's something there. Like, so I haven't figured out what the thing to pitch them is.
Those mugs?
Oh, those mugs would be really
They
cool.
have two-finger mugs. I Googled it right away as soon as I saw them.
The one with like Irving's face.
Yeah. Oh, that Irving's face one was really creepy and yet awesome. And now we're giving spoilers.
It's just of a mug.
Yeah.
There's a mug. It's
There's
okay.
a mug.
It'll be
It
fine.
happens.
It'll be all right.
But no, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Me and my wife are obsessed with this show, and I would love to work with them on something.
Yeah, that's a
awesome.
very, very cool one for sure.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell like they're very thoughtful of everything that they put into the show, and that would be that would definitely be a really cool one.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Rickon's book.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Now, bouncing off of IP, are there any other like types of products that Foam Brain doesn't yet make that you would love to be able to manufacture?
So there are definitely always new things we're trying.
Yeah.
We make a lot of prototypes, a lot of which never go anywhere, either because we can't figure out the physicality of it or we can't figure out something. So I can't exactly say what, but there's definitely some like fields we want to do more stuff in. We want to like do a little bit more in kind of some high-end jewelry or like mid-range jewelry.
Ooh.
It's been fun to make the stuff we made, but I'm like, I want to make some like cool, nice pieces. I have a product type which we've been working on for a while, which I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but I'm really excited and I really hope it does.
Ooh.
Something I can't talk about, unfortunately.
Okay.
Has there ever been a product that like you were confident, like, oh, we could do this, and then you get there like, oh no, this doesn't exist? I'm referencing a thing that happened on a show that I was on where I was like, oh yeah, holograms exist.
Yeah.
Holograms don't exist. I don't know why I assumed holograms exist.
All the time. And sometimes later on they figure it out. Like we made the first prototype glow-in-the-dark dice that glowed red of any manufacturer back almost 15 years ago now.
Wow.
Well, it turns out glowing red is nearly physically impossible because the wavelength of light you get from it just doesn't absorb energy, so it doesn't glow.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we made these samples, and they eventually glowed if you like stuck them under a flashlight for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But at the time, the technology on glow powder just wasn't there to make that work.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Interesting. So interesting.
There's so much to try to understand from that, and I feel like you have to try things and make the prototype because nobody has the answer out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of information that I feel like people are picking up from GAMA in general, from some of the like educational things, the seminars, things that are happening, hopefully some stuff here on the stream, which are information that nobody has asked the question online.
And that's why GAMA is so awesome, because when you put some of the most brilliant minds in this industry together in a room, together we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And I feel like, sure, I took 45 meetings, but that time that I spend sitting around chatting with people, getting breakfast, or like sitting in the conservatory, that's kind of where we're all just talking ideas at each other and talking like what's good for our store, what's good for our business. And I think it really does make us all stronger businesses and stronger people in this industry.
That's really wonderful.
For anyone watching at home, do you have any advice if they're debating joining GAMA of coming in 2026? Do you have any advice for them on how to get the most out of this con?
So yes, and I mean it's going to sound like the silliest advice, I said it in a seminar, and somebody made fun of me when I was like when I was practicing it before I went to like go do it. The most valuable thing at GAMA is not the presentations, it's not the exhibitors. And I say this as somebody who presented as an exhibitor. They're both very valuable. The most valuable thing is the casual connections you make with people, and the ability to build an actual peer group for yourself in this industry. Because a lot of us don't really have like a lot of local peers, and honestly, in the grand scheme of the universe, a lot of peers at all. You know, there's only a few thousand game designers, a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people who do board game media. Like, there's only 5,000 retail stores. So there's only 10,000 retail store owners, maybe.
Really?
So like, we don't have a lot of peers.
Yeah.
Building valuable connections and networking is the single best thing you can get out of GAMA.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. That's really great. I think that's going to be helpful
perspective.
for a lot of people. I know we are just about out of time. This is the section where I say shamelessly plug anything you want. Tell them exactly what to do.
Well, I mean, if you don't carry our mystery loots, you should carry our mystery loots. They are the single best-selling ones in the market as far as I know. We have sold just a tremendous amount of them, and they are super cool. And you can open up a wholesale account at phonebrainwholesale.com.
That's great.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming to
Thanks for
talk
having
to
me.
us.
This was so much fun.
We really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who've joined us for this one. We are not leaving you quite yet. I believe we have a quick other segment that we're going to flip over to you, so we're going to see you in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
Hi there, this is John Stacey again with GAMA Expo 2025. With me today is Frank DiLorenzo with R&R Games. Frank, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. It's a beautiful day in Louisville here with lovely weather. I really am having a grand old time already.
Excellent. Well, tell me about your company and why you're coming to GAMA Expo.
Well, R&R Games, we've been in the business for almost 30 years now, publishing games for the family, party games, family games, strategy games, you name it, we've pretty much touched on it. And you probably know us for Time's Up or Hanabi. But yeah, we've been coming to GAMA a long time. Started here with our first game. We released our first game here in 1996, back when it was in, I believe, Las Vegas. Yeah. At the old, what was it, the Orleans. Yeah.
Oh, is that still up? They tear that down?
I don't know.
That's
I haven't been there in a while.
I've not been to Vegas, probably, I don't know. I've lost count of times I've been to Vegas. It's been many
Yeah,
years.
I know. Yeah. But yeah, and over the years we just grew and We're still here, having a fun time.
Excellent, cool. So you're exhibiting this year, right?
We are exhibitors here, yep, and we have our booth. We have new games to show. We have, the stalwart games that we always sell, but we have every year several new games that we like to showcase, and this year's no different. We've got some party games. We've got a card game, some strategy. A little bit of everything.
You mentioned Time's Up earlier.
Yes.
I hear there may be a little announcement this week about that game.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh, this sounds exciting.
It does. So we have our board meeting Wednesday night, and we're going to be announcing our Origin Awards nominees for the 2024-25 years, but also for our Hall of Fame inductees.
Oh.
And I heard that maybe the game of yours might be on the list for the Hall of Fame inductee.
Well, that's exciting.
It is, isn't it? A
I'm
little surprise there, a little spoiler alert.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to put the full set out tomorrow night.
Well, fingers crossed.
Definitely. So hopefully we'll see you there. And then
Absolutely.
At Origins in June was the Origin Award ceremony. It's on Friday night. And then we'll do all the Hall of Fame inductees during that meeting. So hopefully I will see you there because something might happen. I don't know, but hope to see you there.
I look forward to it. That sounds like a fun time.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Absolutely,
and
John.
Enjoy the rest of GAMA Expo. All
Oh, yeah.
right. Take care now. Hello, this is John Stacy here at GAMA Expo 2025. The guest is Mike Webb of ISO.
Hi, good to see you.
Mike is a long-term member of the association, former member of our board of directors. Very good guy involved with Origins, all the programs. And I've asked Mike to join me today talking about his experience with GAMA over the years, how it's evolved, where
Definitely.
we are now. And we're obviously removed those where we are now, but where the show's come over the years of your tenure, I'd just love to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the show so far today has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're talking record numbers, right? We're talking over 1,100 retailers, over 3,300, I think you said, individuals coming. Definitely the premier opportunity to network and to have professionals at all different areas network, talk about how they can work better together. Obviously, I'm a publisher. I'm selling to my distributors. I'm selling to retailers here. But I'm also meeting new vendors, new people that might supply, new partners. We do licensing. It's just such a great opportunity to have everybody in one place, and we can really network together in it. And that's really been the strength of GAMA and the GAMA Expo in particular, or back in the day, the GAMA Trade Show. It's really been a strength of the show, but it's really come alive, I think, in the last couple of years here. We've really appreciated it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. We were talking about that a little earlier. We did show hands at the opening welcome tonight, and probably a third of the room people for the first time here.
Absolutely.
Just that dynamism happened at the show this week.
It's such a great opportunity, and for the retailers that, the retailers that it's their first time, or the vendors, or the authors, right? The creators. Such an opportunity to learn, and this business especially, one of the things I've always loved about it is that people are so generous in sharing information and making sure that others don't have to go through the same pitfalls that they did. And, when I got in this industry back in the late 90s, I looked up at the grand old men of the industry. And now I look, and you and I both have some gray in our beard. We are becoming the grand old men, maybe not grand.
Well, the gray old
We're the old men in the industry. And, it's our turn to pay back some of that we got when we were getting our start in the business. So, that's one of the other things I love about the show. It's not just the business opportunities here. It's the opportunity to pay back some of the generosity of those that came before us, because in the end, we win as an industry. My competition isn't somebody else making role-playing games. My competition isn't somebody else, trying to do what I'm doing. My competition is 20th Century Fox. My competition is Activision. And the more that we can work together and find ways to get more people at tables playing games face-to-face, or over virtual tabletops now, the better it is for all of us, and the better future that we've got built for years to come.
Absolutely. I always suggest that this is the largest co-op game you ever play.
Exactly.
If you didn't want to work together to lift the industry up as a whole.
We all win.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I love that victory condition.
Yes.
So.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
So before we go, I just want to ask you about Origins. This is our 5th anniversary for the show.
50 years, man.
Yeah, and I want to get
Amazing.
your, you've been going for a long time, like I have, and so I'm curious about your impressions over that show and what it means to you as in this industry.
Origins. I've been in the business professionally for right at 30 years. Origins was always the show I went to because I enjoyed playing. It was the show that a lot of professionals I know that are in the business went to because it was a show that reminded us we love what we do and we love what we sell. We sell fun in the box, and it's so easy to get caught up in the business of it and lose sight of the joy people have in playing. And I've run miniature games, 700 square feet of table space, and had people just coming and enjoying it. I've sat down and played simple card games that have become absolute favorites. It's a show that's about play more than anything, and that's one of the things I absolutely love. I haven't been able to be there in the past couple of years, but I intend to be back this year because it's the best opportunity to remind myself our industry is about making people smile.
Absolutely.
And it makes me smile to go.
Well, hearing that makes me smile, and I appreciate your time today.
Excellent. Appreciate
all
you do.
It was a pleasure to connect with you, and thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Hey, take care now.
Thanks.
Bye. Hi, this is John Stacy with GAMA here at GAMA Expo Plus again. With me is Scott Brady, game designer of Hues and Cues in the game Boop. He's here to talk to us about his experience at GAMA and why he comes here as a game designer.
You know, for a good year or so, I've been recommending to other game designers that this is easily the place you have to be. It's quickly become the place for both experienced and new game designers to meet publishers, distributors, and such. So that's why I come. You know, it's a place where I can meet with multiple publishers and in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. And this year we had a creator pavilion. Were you involved in any of that or take any programming there, or what was that like?
So it was nice. This was the first year that the creator division had content going through the entire expo. And having a dedicated creator pavilion, which was a large room that was dual purpose. Of course, it was used half of the time for like a proto-spiel type or an unpub type, play your prototype, get feedback from other people,
right.
And the other times with dedicated content for the creator division. And so I sat in on a whole bunch about learning about sell sheets, making video. I'm not very good at making videos, so I got a lot of good tips about making pitch videos and not having to hire someone to do that, and specific, pitch decks, sell sheets, and things like that. All that are going to contribute and hopefully better my pitching process.
Yeah. Now, you've been a designer for a while now, right?
About 7 years, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and so even with your experience, you got a couple of printed titles, you're still finding value coming here as an established designer, right?
Oh, absolutely, because as I'm sure in industry, things change, and technology makes things simpler on some aspects, but a lot of times best practices, people find things that work better. Publishers in particular have started to transition away from sell sheets and more towards video, so that's the reason I took that seminar to learn how to better myself in that aspect. But you really never know. I mean, coming to something like this, not only going to people teach you or make suggestions about what the current best practice is, you'll hear whispers about, oh, this company's doing this company's doing that, and you kind of want to be in front of it.
Sure. I've always been interested about how the creative process works. I mean, how do you approach designing a new game?
Well, I think that's a different process for everyone. I mean, I can only really speak to what my process is, and I'm lucky I design by inspiration. I don't sit down to design a game, but when I'm out and about or in some activity or whatever, something will happen or something will pop into my mind, and I'll think, oh, that might be an interesting party game, or that might be an interesting card game, and that nugget will just start to grow in my mind until I'm ready to start putting pen to paper. But I think everyone's process and creative process is a little bit different.
Do you prefer a certain kind of mechanic with your games, or yeah, okay.
So that's a common question: is do you do mechanic first or theme first?
Right.
And I actually answer that. I actually do something different. I start with mechanic typically, and then about halfway through, then I start integrating the theme, and then I end up working on mechanics again, because once I start integrating the theme with the mechanic, that does tend to help spark ideas about, now that I'm thinking past the mechanics and thinking of a theme, then maybe by concentrating on that will spur an idea about a new mechanic. So I guess you would call it like an Oreo, right? So my theme is the cream filling in the middle, the mechanics are the outside.
Yeah. And I think you shared once about how the Boop, one of your games, it still catch up in the bed.
Right.
How that kind of evolved thematically as you were going through that process. Could you share a little about the
concept?
It was
sure.
really interesting.
So I decided during the pandemic because there was a huge online outcry for two-player games. We were all locked down.
Right.
People, we were just playing with spouses or
Not just
children
spouses, with
at home.
spouses and family.
Yeah, spouses and family at home. But they were looking for lower player count games. Right. And I created Boop as an abstract game that I gave away for free on BGG. Uploaded the files, made it a free print and play, and it got a nice little following going on.
Yeah.
And so I pitched it, and once things opened up and we had conventions again or so, I showed it around and had some really great feedback, went pretty deep with one publisher about publishing it as an abstract game. But in the end, they ended up passing on it for an unrelated reason, and I went back to the drawing board to try now to add the theme to it. And it was really, with that particular game, which was the mechanically mostly finished, it was just a matter of finding a nice marketable theme that, for me, matched the mechanics and was explainable. So when you're explaining the theme, you can explain that it's a cat jumping out of bed. And so I actually built a little bed and a little fake mattress and had some pieces 3D printed. And then my very first pitch, it wasn't even a pitch. It was just showing a publisher, oh, here's how I updated, and this is what I'm going to pitch at a small and I was at a small convention before Origins. And he's like, I can sell that. And so I didn't even have to pitch it when Origins came around.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. Well, I appreciate your time today, sharing
sure thing.
everything, and so thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, John.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right.
Asmodee and Next Move Games are thrilled to announce the next great game in the Azul series, Azul Duel, a game designed specifically for 2 players where you are competing head-to-head to decorate the ceiling of the Palace of Sintra. Building upon the Azul series legacy, you are still drafting tiles from the center factories and placing them in your pattern lines on your player board. When you eventually complete a horizontal line, you'll move them over and score points. If you're able to efficiently fill your pattern and combo in-game scoring objectives, you'll win the game. But Azul Duel offers new gameplay with even more tactical options and strategic depth than its family of predecessors. The game takes place over 5 rounds, each of which is composed of the following phases: acquisition, dome tiling and scoring, and lastly, preparation. Let's take a deep dive on how acquisition works with the 4 available actions to a player and highlight new gameplay tailored for head-to-head competition. The first and maybe most unique are these dome tiles. As an action, you'll either take a dome tile from the central board or pay 1 point to draw from the dome pile. After you've made your decision, you'll place the dome tile on one of your empty dome spaces. It can be oriented and placed in any of the available spots on your player board, but once it's locked in, it can't be changed. Essentially, with this action, you are creating ways on how you want to score points in the future. Each round, you'll take this action exactly twice, indicated by using your player token. So, by the 5th and last round of the game, you'll have all your dome plates filled on your player board. Another example is when taking tiles from the factory. You now have a number of options. Each factory is now divided into a sun and a moon side, with one of them also being a large factory. When taking from the sun side, you'll pick all tiles of the same color from one factory, so like this, or like this. Now, if I'm taking from the small factories or large factory, it does determine what happens next. If you take from the large factory, you'll take all the remaining tiles and place them onto the individual moon spaces. If you take from one of the small factories, you'll stack all remaining tiles from the sun side onto the moon side of that factory in any order you choose. With that, we now can explain taking tiles from the moon side. As an action, you'll take all matching top tiles of the same color from all 5 factories' moons. Take note that each space of the large factory moon is considered to be on top, so I did take this red tile as well. Also, if you're the first player to pick one or more tiles from the large factory's moon, you must also take the starting player tile and place it onto your player board in the indicated space. It will let you go first next round, but you'll lose 2 points for doing so. Whether you took tiles from the sun or moon side, once you've made your decision, just like the original, all tiles you gained on your turn must be added to exactly one of the 6 horizontal pattern lines on the left side of your player board. Let's talk about another one of the 4 available actions to you. Take a bonus chip. When the last tile is taken from a small factory's moon, a bonus chip is revealed that was underneath it. Once revealed, as an action, you're able to take this chip and place it face up onto your bonus chip storage area on your player board. During each round, you'll take exactly 2 bonus chips. And because of this, the bonus chip area is divided into 5 sections on your player board to help you keep track of rounds. These chips will be used during the scoring phase to help you complete incomplete pattern lines and score points by combining 2 of the colors to make one shape, or you can also use 3 to make it whichever color you choose. The acquisition phase ends once all tiles and chips are cleared from the factories and both players have used their 2 player tokens to draft dome tiles. Then we move to the scoring phase. The scoring phase occurs similar to those familiar with Azul. You'll score 1 point if there are no tiles directly adjacent vertically or horizontally to the newly placed tile. But if there are any adjacent tiles, check if there are 1 or more tiles horizontally and vertically linked to the newly placed tile. If so, count all these linked tiles, including the newly placed one, and score that many points. So in this instance, I would count 1, 2, 3 for the horizontally linked tiles and 4, 5, 6 for the vertically linked tiles, including the newly placed tile both times for a total of 6 points. And to reiterate, strategically placing your dome tiles on your personal board can make such a big impact in scoring. The same colors can now be in the same horizontal line, and some dome tiles even have a wild color space that allow any color tile. If ever a tile fills the 3rd space of a special dome plate like this one here, add a special tile from the supply to the matching space, and you'll score the points on the right side of that row. With the scoring phase finished, it's time to prepare for the next round. Drawing from this bag, refill the large factory with 5 tiles and each small factory with 4 tiles. Then, take back your 2 player tokens from the scoring board that was used to take your dome tiles and refill the dome display back to 3. Then, place a bonus chip face down on the moon side of all small factories. The player with the starting player tile returns that tile to its space on the large factory and starts the new round. The game ends after 5 rounds, which is followed by scoring the tablets. For your first game, players will score 3 points for each complete horizontal line on your dome, 7 points for each complete vertical line, and 10 points for each complete diagonal line on your dome. Once you've played a few games, additional scoring tablets can be used and randomized for advanced play. These are just a few examples of the new dynamic gameplay tailored for head-to-head competition in Azul Duel. The back-and-forth play, making offers to your opponent they can't refuse, and setting up for your next turn offers a new experience never seen before in the series. Whether you're new to the Azul series or a seasoned player, Azul Duel offers endless replayability for fans and newcomers alike. For more details or further rule clarifications, consult the rulebook as it'll have all the information you need. Also, please be sure to check out your local favorite hobby store to pick up a copy of your own. I hope you enjoy your playthroughs of this exciting new adventure into the Azul series, and we'll see you at the table.
Hello again, this is John. Welcome to GAMA Expo Plus here again at the show. This is Brian Bergman, our Member Services Director, Manager for GAMA. Tell us about who you are, Brian, and what you do with GAMA.
So I am the Membership Manager. I have been with GAMA. This is my 3rd Expo as a staff member. My main day-to-day focus is on recruitment, retention, and member benefits. So basically helping to grow the association, which in turn then grows the attendance here at Expo.
Excellent. So this is a members-only show. You have to be a member to come to the show here. So I'm curious, what have you been doing this week? What you've been here? What's going to be your role here?
Surprisingly, I've been getting a whole lot of new members signed up on the spot. This year we've seen a lot of growth, and so while usually that is pre-reg, we've had a lot of walk-ins this year, which is fantastic. So I've been helping out in registration with them. I've also been finalizing people doing the online registration and finalizing it so when they do show up, they're ready to go right away without having to wait any longer lines. But yeah, it's voting members can get 2 badges with their membership, and it's a $300 annual membership. They also get badges to go to Origins Game Fair, which is our consumer show. So it's a really great deal if you're planning to come to the shows. And the greatest thing about Expo is the networking. I'm just looking around. I'm sitting in the hallway, and it's just packed with people just sitting around having meetings and talking and having a good time. I just was walking the exhibit hall a little bit and seeing all of the different things going on there, from different meetings to then people selling their wares.
You were talking about all the on-site reservation. I looked at numbers a little while ago, and we're up 25% over last year. And last year was 34% up over the previous year. So it's this amazing dynamic time growing in this industry. I think the count, we're looking at about 3,400 attendees so far for this year.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's 350 booths in the exhibit hall. We have over 200 hours of peer-to-peer seminars. It's just an amazing week here going on. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun. And one thing I love, I've been in this industry for a long time, and it's like a homecoming every year to be able to see your friends. Maybe this is the last time you saw them was at GAMA Expo last year. But also the amount of new people, as John just said, with the growth, it just brings such a different vibe every year. So it's always fresh. And it's just fantastic to see what new products are coming out, but also then just meeting new people and what they're bringing to this industry.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the time to talk with us this afternoon, and back to work.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, this is John Stacey again with GAMA here for the GAMA Expo Plus program. With me is George Bergstrom for the American Library Association and the roundtable. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Sure. So American Library Association is to libraries as GAMA is to the board game industry. It's our largest national organization, and within that, lots of small groups, just like GAMA. And the Games and Gaming Roundtable is the group that promotes games use in libraries.
So what are you doing here this week at GAMA Expo?
So my primary focus this week is to thank publishers and other board game and TTRPG companies who've worked with us in the past, and to recruit volunteers to help us in the future.
So what kind of projects does the Roundtable do?
So we have an annual convention, just like most other board game events. It is in June, usually after Origins, so I'm looking to find people who work with us there. And we also have International Games Month, which is every year in November.
Yeah, I'm interested about that because we're working on GAMA as getting more engaged with that. And so how can we help partner with you to help promote that and get engaged with ALI's month in October?
Sure. One of the easiest ways is if a company does want to sponsor us, I can give you guys the link to the registration form for that. But another easy way is if a library near you doesn't already have games, asking the staff in that library that you'd like to have games in the library near you lets administration know that the games are important, and that will hopefully get games into more libraries.
Yeah. So tell me about your career. You're a professional librarian.
Yep.
What does that really mean?
So library jobs are varied and many. I currently work in a state library where I help library staff maintain their certifications. I travel all around my state, work with libraries, do trainings, but there are public libraries, work with summer reading, things like that, everyday public. Academic libraries are in colleges, school libraries. So there's lots of types of libraries.
That's great. Yeah, and I really appreciate making time to come down and join us at GAMA this week. And
sure.
Hope you had a phenomenal week here and made some good contacts.
Yeah, so far it's been great.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
enjoy
having
the rest of the convention.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Hi, this is John again with the GAMA Expo Plus. Back here talking with Phil. It's my local game store, actually, in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm based. Tell us a little about yourself and your store, Phil.
So, Phil Stewart, Columbus, Ohio, Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy, registered trademark. We're a franchise. The other stores, there's 6 of them in Texas. So I'm the non-Texan store. We just had our 3rd anniversary, which for us is a pretty exciting milestone to have made it 3 years and still be growing. And not only are we still growing, we're negotiating to expand into the suite next to us. So it's been a really good 3-year run.
That's great. And because your store, obviously, you're part of a franchise model,
yes,
which is a little different for us, was more like independent stores. How do you find that experience has helped you getting your store up and running and being successful in your business?
Yeah, it's so the franchise itself is a bit interesting. So we're all independently incorporated. So we're all independent owners. But the franchise provides marks and logos. There is a centralized marketing support team of 2 people. So they help us with graphic design, social media templates, but also for startup, the franchise, David Wheeler's the franchisor. We have an operations manual that all the stores share. We share sales data, which is hugely helpful, especially as a new store wondering what to buy. And there's also a color palette, suggested fixture suppliers. So we all stay on brand, but David started in 1984 with his first store. So to not have experience and have his experience be accessible was a great way to start.
Yeah, excellent. So what did you do before you became a game store owner?
So I still, I've been at DHL Supply Chain for 27 years. Yeah. So by day, I'm a logistician.
Logistician? What does that mean?
So I...
Arena things?
DHL's mostly known for the yellow and red trucks delivering parcels.
Right.
We also do a lot of other kinds of logistics. So my specialty is in defense logistics. So foreign military sales, aftermarket support, so countries that are NATO allies, a lot of their equipment comes from DHL as their shipper, handler, and warehouser. So I run a portion of that worldwide.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So that's a huge difference. That's a flex I would never expected to bring in the games industry. So what led you to this kind of career path?
2019, a year we all remember is the before times leading up to the scary times. I was going through about a passport a year.
Yeah.
And then the shutdown hit. And instead of being everywhere all over the planet, I was on the phone 24/7, having to cover all those time zones remotely.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it was burning me out. And I talked to my spouse and I talked to DHL. And they said, you know what, you can have an 11-month sabbatical. And if you come back before 12 months are up, grandfather your position, you'll be fine. Just, take a break. And my wife and I were talking about, well, what should we do on our break? And Jen, who's smarter than I am, said, hey, you're going to try to retire in about 10 years. What are you going to do in retirement? And I said, I have no idea. And went to a few seminars, and one of them was on, hey, can you monetize your hobbies as your retirement goal?
Right.
And that led me down the path of, hey, I've been playing D&D since the 80s. I've been Magic since the 90s. BattleTech forever. So board games. And it just kind of dawned on me that if I could monetize my hobbies and be involved with a community-based game store, which is the magic of any of our local stores,
right.
That would give me something to do in retirement. So I took that year to find a franchise option with Dragon's Lair, do the financing, get it set up, and then found a really good general manager who runs the store. I still do I do all the accounting and invoice processing and the money side of it. But I get to be at the store at nights and weekends as part of that community.
Right.
And I spend most of my time at the store doing demo games and learn to plays and hosting leagues.
Right.
And then when I do retire, I've got something to do that I'm not a go south and play golf kind of guy. Right. So, that was the story, was COVID, travel, looking down the horizon a little bit and saying, what do I really want to be when I grow up? I want to run a game store.
That's wow. I appreciate sharing that. That's kind of cool. Like I said, you're my local store. You're like literally 5 miles from my house, and it's like my house is here, the store's here, it works here. And so it's very convenient to make that little loop.
That's
there.
right, because the offices are just down on campus, right?
Yep.
There at Campus Boulevard.
Campus View, yeah.
Yeah.
North of 27 right there.
It's like a mile and a half.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Well, I appreciate coming out and sharing today and being
of
part
course.
of this, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. How's it been for you this year?
It's been fantastic. I look forward to, we're lucky being in Columbus because we also have Origins, which is the player side of it. This convention I value so much to be able to talk to other retailers and just soak up their knowledge, experience, lessons learned, and then get this quality time with publishers and wholesale distributors as well.
Yeah.
So the professional development, I just can't imagine where I'd be without that access. And then again, getting to spend a day and a half in a trade show environment with an exhibit hall and experience the games at night in the demo, learn to play nights, it's something I look forward to every year, and I really value what it's done for my store and for me as a 3-year-old professional in the space.
Great. Well, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Take care now.
level. But this kind of journey, when I look at it in hindsight, it's interesting that I did a few things along the way, and I want to take just a moment to talk through this idea of product market fit. This is like a tech industry idea, and I'll kind of work my way from the bottom to the top. So the idea of product market fit is before you do anything. This is what a lot of tech companies do. If they have an idea for a product, first they'll think, who is my target customer, right? Maybe it is, let's say my target, let's take Wingspan as a great example of this. My target customer is a bird enthusiast who enjoys gateway games. Okay, that's my target customer. And then you ask yourself, have they had their needs met? Okay, so in pre-Wingspan case, no, great. And then you have that on the market side. So you have your target market, and then you ask like, okay, have they had their needs met? And then on the other side, you have your product side, which is, okay, does the thing I am making fulfill the needs? That's the value proposition. And then, above that, you have this feature set idea. In board game world, we could say that's mechanics, that's theme. And then the user experience on the top actually only matters if you want people to keep on buying your games in the future. This is like how good your games are, because then they'll come back. But for me, the thing that's most interesting is the combination and the intersection between the market and the product. And so if we actually look through my journey, it's neat because without really kind of planning to do this, I kind of did this step. So I identified a market. It's like, hey, is there a group of people who want a battle royale board game, right? That was my target audience. And then I built the prototype with all internal graphics. I learned how to use Photoshop. I did a bunch of these things. I MVP'd it. MVP stands for minimum viable product. So what is the least amount of work you can do to get something that is presentable, that someone can interact with in order to kind of validate your market kind of proposal. And then that Reddit post was that link, this section between the value proposition and the underserved needs, right? Is there a group there? So you have to test that, and that's what that Reddit post was. It was a product market fit link, and it's really neat. So I ended up working through this target customer, undeserved needs, and then creating a product in which those undeserved needs actually got met with the product. I'm going to pause here, because how I am speaking about what we're doing is a little bit different than where this product market fit idea came from. So product market fit, it typically boiled down to, do audiences have problems? How can I fix those problems? That's how a lot of tech industry products get made. What is the problem? How can I build a solution or a product in order to address that problem? We make creative products that people enjoy, right? And so it's a little bit more nebulous than that. We're not focused on fixing problems. We're focused on providing experiences, joy, entertainment. But a lot of these ideas, I think, can translate in some interesting ways. And so I want to
All right, so hidden cost number one. This might be a duh one, but trust. Okay, if you are going to be late, at some point there's going to be a moment where you start to lose trust from some backers, many backers, all backers. Generally, I like to say if you're within plus or minus 3 months of your estimate, you're basically on time. No one's sitting there with a, stopwatch on you like that. And it's an estimate, right? Like sometimes backers, I think, forget your delivery estimate is an estimate. What's key here is just communicating. As with everything crowdfunding, just communicate. As long as you're letting backers know what's going on, a 3-month late delivery is pretty much on time. A lot of backers probably even 6 months, it may not even be an issue at all. They may look at that the same. I've seen a lot of people even say a year is normal for crowdfunding. I think that's a little long, but again, some may not care. But I can promise you, once you are like a year out of your estimate, you are really going to start to this impact of trust is really going to start to hit you. Backers are going to start asking where their stuff is. You can curb that and reduce that by being great at communication. And I'm not talking about an update every month that doesn't really have any actual info on what's happening with the project. You see this all the time. I'm actually backing some projects that are egregiously late, and they'll put an update on about developing some cards and some art that is not relevant to actually producing and delivering the game, and that gets to be insulting to backers because you start come on, if you're flashing new artwork up and it's a year past the delivery, that's not the best look, right? It's better than no communication, but again, you want to kind of if there's real delays and reasons for the delays, I'm not saying communicate anything and everything, but you can communicate that and sort of maintain some of this trust. It's not a quantifiable cost, right? You can't say, well, I lost one backer's trust. What does that mean, dollar and cents to my company? But you do know if you lost the potential for them to back your next project, that is a real cost. And so just kind of be aware of that. You get, particularly if it's your first time or you have a good track record, you don't want one project to kind of derail you. And then on the flip side, if you deliver on time or early, you actually gain backer trust. So you become someone, that was a great experience. I always like to say, game publishers, we are cultivating and creating experiences. I look at our crowdfunding as an experience. If you go ask any of our fans about a Final Girl Kickstarter, they're going to say, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing, that was such a great time. Even before they had the game, just everyone being excited and, depending what you're doing with stretch goals or rewards, keeping engagement, they actually love not even just the game itself, but being part of the project. And so you can get a lot of good benefit from that.
That makes sense. So as we're identifying, obviously we talked about our media kit and our everything there, and we talked about getting things for content creators. A big thing, it was interesting, this morning actually, I was talking to a couple of retailers, and they were saying how inboxes have become, like newsletters are very important now, because with social media becoming very chaotic, right, and it's hard to get messages out there, the newsletter has become very effective. How often do you guys use newsletters for your promotions, and like what's your frequency, and what do you include? Brianna?
We send out newsletters at least twice a month, at least bi-weekly, sometimes more if we have more to talk about. I found that that's a good medium for us, so we don't lose as many subscribers as if we were to send more than, I would say, 3 or 4, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
We send monthly newsletters, and then on our website, and sometimes in our monthly newsletters, we'll have like a landing page for people to sign up and get specific tags. Like on MailChimp, you can set up different tags and segments for your customers. So if they're interested in a release for like Super Boss Monster, for example, we'll just use that tag to let them know when a pre-order or a Kickstarter campaign is happening specifically. So we're not bugging people who aren't super interested in it, but we'll still have like the information in the overall newsletter as well.
So you brought up MailChimp. I use Verve for mine. There's all these different kinds of things. Is there a preferred one that you think is best for indie or a larger company or things like that?
Depends on your budget and how focused you are on e-commerce. Because my preference is Klaviyo, so there's a third option. Basically, everyone's going to have a different option. It's one of the more expensive ones, but it has such powerful data that I like to use. It connects to Shopify. I think just find something that's within your budget, has all the capabilities that you need with segmenting, emails, sends per month, whatever, because they all generally do the same thing.
Totally, right? Yeah. Right email, it goes out, right? So, well, makes sense, right? Yeah. So with that, I think something that we all kind of deal with in knowing how to set is, how do you identify your budget, right? And I know, a fun question, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, if we're going to do a regular campaign where it's going to go traditional through distribution and everything else there, we're going to print 5,000, 10,000 copies. You know, how do you gauge that versus when you're getting ready for a Kickstarter campaign or a back-up campaign, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to make, $1 million hopefully. How do you gauge from there? So what are some tips and tricks you recommend for building out a budget, or how do you plan for that?
First of all, one, don't cry when trying to set up your budget. Try to figure out how much time and energy you're putting into each specific thing to make your budget. For example, how much do you want to spend on sponsorships? How much do you want to spend on Facebook and Instagram ads? And how much do you want to spend on any print ads? Try to make an overall budget based on that, and then hone it in from there is the way that I like to do it. And then I ask my boss after that, basically.
I actually don't come up with a budget, so I'm going to volley it off to you.
So generally, I take 10% of projected revenue based on the number of units I print and the MSRP to get a portion of that revenue, right? And I'm reasonably, this is what I can spend and still make a margin. And sometimes it's more than 10%, sometimes it's less than. If we're this is just a one and done, we're never reprinting it. Or is this an evergreen where we print 50,000 copies a year? Or just 5, right? Whatever. Right. So it depends, but that's my starting base. And I make a template, like Jillian said, of everything that I can possibly think of, and then scale it up or down and whatever.
And I think what's interesting on that, too, is that 10% number is a great number to have. But for a crowdfunding campaign, for example, it's okay to plan for over that, knowing that you have a sliding scale. So let's say you wanted to reach a certain amount, but then, oh my gosh, you've reached that number, but then you've got 2 weeks left. How do you turn that valve up and down? So having that prepped, another 5% would be really cool if we turn on meta ads, or I really want to get this one-shot campaign, actual play. Is it worth it? Kind of knowing to gauge where that's at is going to be helpful when you're planning.
Well, that's why you have to track data and clicks and what you're spending to get ROAS, return on ad spend. You want it to be higher than what you're spending, right? So you're not just spending money because then you lose it to your margin. But generally 3 to 5 ROAS is really healthy. So just look at the numbers, because then you can increase your budget too if you see your actions are bringing in more sales.
Asmodee and Next Move Games are thrilled to announce the next great game in the Azul series, Azul Duel, a game designed specifically for 2 players where you are competing head-to-head to decorate the ceiling of the Palace of Sintra. Building upon the Azul series legacy, you are still drafting tiles from the center factories and placing them in your pattern lines on your player board. When you eventually complete a horizontal line, you'll move them over and score points. If you're able to efficiently fill your pattern and combo in-game scoring objectives, you'll win the game. But Azul Duel offers new gameplay with even more tactical options and strategic depth than its family of predecessors. The game takes place over 5 rounds, each of which is composed of the following phases: acquisition, dome tiling and scoring, and lastly, preparation. Let's take a deep dive on how acquisition works with the 4 available actions to a player and highlight new gameplay tailored for head-to-head competition. The first and maybe most unique are these dome tiles. As an action, you'll either take a dome tile from the central board or pay 1 point to draw from the dome pile. After you've made your decision, you'll place the dome tile on one of your empty dome spaces. It can be oriented and placed in any of the available spots on your player board, but once it's locked in, it can't be changed. Essentially, with this action, you are creating ways on how you want to score points in the future. Each round, you'll take this action exactly twice, indicated by using your player token. So, by the 5th and last round of the game, you'll have all your dome plates filled on your player board. Another example is when taking tiles from the factory. You now have a number of options. Each factory is now divided into a sun and a moon side, with one of them also being a large factory. When taking from the sun side, you'll pick all tiles of the same color from one factory, so like this, or like this. Now, if I'm taking from the small factories or large factory, it does determine what happens next. If you take from the large factory, you'll take all the remaining tiles and place them onto the individual moon spaces. If you take from one of the small factories, you'll stack all remaining tiles from the sun side onto the moon side of that factory in any order you choose. With that, we now can explain taking tiles from the moon side. As an action, you'll take all matching top tiles of the same color from all 5 factories' moons. Take note that each space of the large factory moon is considered to be on top, so I did take this red tile as well. Also, if you're the first player to pick 1 or more tiles from the large factory's moon, you must also take the starting player tile and place it onto your player board in the indicated space. It will let you go first next round, but you'll lose 2 points for doing so. Whether you took tiles from the sun or moon side, once you've made your decision, just like the original, all tiles you gained on your turn must be added to exactly one of the 6 horizontal pattern lines on the left side of your player board. Let's talk about another one of the 4 available actions to you. Take a bonus chip. When the last tile is taken from a small factory's moon, a bonus chip is revealed that was underneath it. Once revealed, as an action, you're able to take this chip and place it face up onto your bonus chip storage area on your player board. During each round, you'll take exactly 2 bonus chips. And because of this, the bonus chip area is divided into 5 sections on your player board to help you keep track of rounds. These chips will be used during the scoring phase to help you complete incomplete pattern lines and score points by combining 2 of the colors to make one shape, or you can also use 3 to make it whichever color you choose. The acquisition phase ends once all tiles and chips are cleared from the factories and both players have used their 2 player tokens to draft dome tiles. Then we move to the scoring phase. The scoring phase occurs similar to those familiar with Azul. You'll score 1 point if there are no tiles directly adjacent vertically or horizontally to the newly placed tile. But if there are any adjacent tiles, check if there are one or more tiles horizontally and vertically linked to the newly placed tile. If so, count all these linked tiles, including the newly placed one, and score that many points. So in this instance, I would count 1, 2, 3 for the horizontally linked tiles, and 4, 5, 6 for the vertically linked tiles, including the newly placed tile both times, for a total of 6 points. And to reiterate, strategically placing your dome tiles on your personal board can make such a big impact in scoring. The same colors can now be in the same horizontal line, and some dome tiles even have a wild color space that allow any color tile. If ever a tile fills the third space of a special dome plate like this one here, add a special tile from the supply to the matching space, and you'll score the points on the right side of that row. With the scoring phase finished, it's time to prepare for the next round. Drawing from this bag, refill the large factory with 5 tiles and each small factory with 4 tiles. Then, take back your 2-player tokens from the scoring board that was used to take your dome tiles, and refill the dome display back to 3. Then, place a bonus chip face down on the moon side of all small factories. The player with the starting player tile returns that tile to its space on the large factory and starts the new round. The game ends after 5 rounds, which is followed by scoring the tablets. For your first game, players will score 3 points for each complete horizontal line on your dome, 7 points for each complete vertical line, and 10 points for each complete diagonal line on your dome. Once you've played a few games, additional scoring tablets can be used and randomized for advanced play. These are just a few examples of the new dynamic gameplay tailored for head-to-head competition in Azul Duel. The back-and-forth play, making offers to your opponent they can't refuse, and setting up for your next turn offers a new experience never seen before in the series. Whether you're new to the Azul series or a seasoned player, Azul Duel offers endless replayability for fans and newcomers alike. For more details or further rule clarifications, consult the rulebook as it'll have all the information you need. Also, please be sure to check out your local favorite hobby store to pick up a copy of your own. I hope you enjoy your playthroughs of this exciting new adventure into the Azul series, and we'll see you at the table.
First steps, Holly, what should you do when you first, if you're first thinking about anti-counterfeiting? Where do we start?
Okay, so Benjamin Franklin, apparently, allegedly once famously said that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So, first things first, protect yourself. Well, how do you do that? Register your intellectual property. If you're not sure where to start, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, we recently released this new tool. It's called the IP Identifier. So it's like a little quiz. You can go online and you can sort of go through your goods or services that you're providing. It'll help you at least initially identify what kind of IP you're talking about, what kind of IP is relevant. Now, a lot of times, board game industry, we're talking about brand names, we're talking about logos, we're talking about company names. So those are all potentially protected as trademarks. So if you are able to register your trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, that's always going to be step one. Having a trademark registration is so important. Not only do you need to have a registered trademark to meet this definition of beyond trademark infringement of counterfeiting, but it gives you certain presumptions. So in the unlikely event that you ever do need to go into court, you have a presumption of ownership, of validity, and of nationwide exclusive rights. I like to think about it, you're going in with a sword rather than a shield if you do ever find yourself in court. So there are also other benefits, including the ability to record your trademark with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which I'll talk about in a moment. So how do you register your trademark? So trademarks are registered one place. Now, there are such things as state trademark registrations, but when we're talking about federal trademarks, it's our office. It's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. We have a number of resources available to help folks that are not represented by counsel. We have our Trademarks Assistance Center. One of my sort of sister business units, the Trademark Customer Outreach, runs a quarterly trademark basics boot camp. It's fantastic. It's sort of a live walkthrough of how to get through different trademark issues. That said, I'm a lawyer. I used to be in private practice like Eric, so I'm going to say if you can, highly recommend working with counsel. The form is not difficult, but there are a lot of nuances in terms of saying, well, do I register my logo versus the word mark? Do I do it in color? Do I do it in black and white? How do I respond if you get an office action, which is like an initial refusal, pretty normal, that you would get from an examiner or office? How do I respond to that? Working with counsel, if you can afford it and make it work, is key. And definitely go to the Trademark and Copyright Council, not just patent attorneys who can pretend that they do IP. Everything, yes.
What kind of costs would be associated both with getting the trademark itself and if you wanted to hire counsel, just kind of a ballpark?
Yeah, so I can speak on the former. Certainly our filing fees, they just increased, so I don't know the exact number, but it was
$350.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Because it was $275, right? And then it went up to $350.
It is now $350. If you want to use a custom form where you write in your own thing, which luckily the board game industry, they've got some good preset terms, it's an extra $200. And then if you want to use even longer ID, and this is going to matter if anyone is international. In other countries, you can do these laundry lists of just games, computer software, advertising, a long, long list. They now are limiting that. And so you're going to have I'm not sure if there's any international folks in the audience, but be aware that the way you file in Europe and in the UK is going to be very different from in the US and will cost way more under the new rules.
Okay. And I'm also probably going to defer to you. Now, in terms of, what attorneys are going to cost, it's going to vary widely depending on where you are in the region. If you're working with a small firm, whether you're working with a very large law firm that has offices internationally. A lot of folks in our industry will charge sort of like flat fees for an initial trademark filing. Other folks do an hourly billing model. I don't know if you want to speak on actual numbers, Eric, because it really depends.
I'm a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple employees, but I'm small, so
yeah.
I just want to get my logo trademark. This is my 20th year in business, and I actually have not done that.
It's probably a smart idea.
Yeah. Definitely a wide range of, because there's every kind of like the guided kind of walk you through the process type of thing that's kind of more general information, like the LegalZooms of the world, and then this is where everyone boos LegalZoom, right? Boo. But that exists, and I think those can be really helpful for filling out the form. There is risk analysis that can be done, so it depends on what exactly you want. If you want to just file it, I think that is something that, especially if you've been using it for 20 years, I think
you can do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I won't ever say that for legal liability reasons, but yeah, no, just take a look at the form and see if you feel comfortable with it.
Or do our free, and by the way, the Trademarks Assistance Center, our boot camp, those are all free resources. Everything that the government offers is free. We are intended to be inclusive and to help small businesses like yourself. So, I would maybe start with that. Look at the resources on our website, just uspto.gov. I think it's /trademarks, and there's quite a bit of information out there.
Hello and welcome back to the ending of GAMA Expo Plus. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us, checked out some of the interviews that we've been doing, spent a little bit of time with us and our guests. We really appreciate it. There is still another day of GAMA Expo, but this is the last of our streams here. Tomorrow is a full day out on the floor. The hall we got to spend a little bit of time in today. It looks absolutely amazing.
Yes.
There are so many cool things set up in there. Did you get a chance to explore a little bit today?
Very little.
Yeah.
Very little. There was just a lot going on inside there, but looked amazing from what I've seen.
Yeah, people are really bringing it. It's really awesome to see people connecting in there, and we're very excited about it. So hopefully, if you've been watching at home, you'll get to make it out next year, and maybe we'll see you here. That's going to be it for us.
I'm Carlos Luna.
And I'm Sage Ryan. We'll see you next time.
Those kind of things. This whole thing, I used to do an entire panel on this. It was called cool versus cost. Like, as a creator, it's very easy to get swept up in the excitement when you're doing things, because backers will ask you for whatever they want. It doesn't matter. They'll ask you for everything. Like, wouldn't this be cool if it was all metal? I'm like, yeah, I guess. It would also weigh 45 pounds, but you can't get swept up in it. Like, T-shirts would be real cool. I'd love to see my name on a T-shirt. Well, T-shirts are annoying because one T-shirt is actually anywhere from 5 to 12 different SKUs, because you have women's small, women's medium, women's large, men's small, and maybe you don't have men's and women's shirts. You have unisex shirts. Still a lot of SKUs. We have a campaign that we did in the past that has T-shirts in it, and they had 25 different designs for T-shirts.
And each of those has how many different sizes and so and so.
That campaign had 750 SKUs in it. That is not a campaign that you want to manage. We don't mind managing it because we get paid for it, and I'll just say that was a $2 million fulfillment is what that was. So if you didn't raise $2 million on your Kickstarter, I mean, maybe you're independently wealthy and none of this matters to you, but I don't think any of us are. So, I mean, we're in the board game industry. None of us are independently wealthy. So, but there are things to do like plushies. You can have plushies vacuum sealed to shrink them down. They take up less space. There's lots of things that you can do, but basically if you have something that's really large and really light, it will drastically affect the cost of shipping your product. So we talked about like having a board in your game. Like, I don't want to have fold marks in my board. Well, now your board, that's the size of your box. That's the size of your shipping. Everything is going to be reflected on that. But let's say you fold it twice. Now it's this, right? So that affects everything, because probably the most common complaint we get from our clients is backers won't pay for that, right? They're like, backers will never pay this for shipping costs, right? I mean, yeah. Sometimes, yes, they won't pay for that. But you have to remember that you're the reason why they won't pay for that, because you made a design choice that caused this to, because shipping costs are what they are. You can kind of range them and, have fulfillment providers compete against each other. But really what you're talking about is not the difference between free and $20. It's the difference between $20 and $17, right? So you have to manage those expectations of your backers as well when you're doing these things. And then as you go past that, and you're going into e-commerce fulfillment or retail shipments and things like that, that also has to weigh into that cost, because if you're saying, I have to have my board and it's unfolded, so therefore my box is this big. A retailer might look at that box and being like, I don't have any room on my shelf for something that big, so I'm not interested. So the rebounding impact of all of those things is pretty severe. So I'm not telling all of y'all to just make small games. I mean, that's certainly something that happened after the pandemic, is a lot of people moved to making smaller games, but manage the expectations of what comes with that when you're making your product.
Yeah. For example, like if you were to make a Candyland-esque game, but that game is now this big because you didn't want to fold your boards or whatever, that isn't worth the amount of space it's taking up, right? So, but if you have something that's like, I can't think of any big games right now. Someone give me one. Gloomhaven, thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Okay, Gloomhaven.
It's a different
So if you have
animal.
something like Gloomhaven where like there's a lot of product within that huge fat box, then it makes much more sense for them to put it on a shelf, much more sense for you to ship the product because the cost that you're charging someone versus the value that they're getting makes sense to them. So it's a value proposition that you have to ask yourself, like, would I spend $50 on a game that looks like that should be $20 but is real big? Probably not. And that's all it has to go down to, really.
All right, EU fulfillment. Well, the first topic I would like to discuss, it's a little bit in line with the topic that Chris talked about, is the essence of preparation. Everything comes down to this. So, for example, always make sure you put a barcode on the box. If there's not a barcode on the box, there's no way a warehouse can scan it. That way, it's really easy for warehouses to mix it up and to ship out the wrong items. So make sure you put unique barcodes on items. Another thing we see a lot of times is, for example, people who decide to make language packages. So they have an English language, they have a German language, and they have a French language. And on all those languages, they also put the same barcode. So then still for a warehouse, they can't distinguish those different versions. So these are really important things to always keep in mind when you're going to prepare a project or when you're going to do fulfillment. The second thing where I have a lot of questions about always is the difference between the EU and Europe, because it's not actually the same. The same goes is that the UK is also not a part of the EU anymore. These are two different entities, and for Europe it's absolutely the same. So to give you some beautiful examples, we have Switzerland and we have Norway. These two countries are not part of the EU. So when you calculate taxes for them, you need to know that a lot of times they still have to pay VAT on the door. So then you're going to collect double taxes. So make sure to talk to the fulfillment center up front to learn the distinctions between these countries. Same goes for North Macedonia, for example, Georgia, and a lot of other countries. For the rest, the EU is really, really simple. The only issue we have is that every EU country is a bit different. The way we spell addresses, the way we build it on, but that's all the job of the fulfillment center. Well, then we have the third point, GPSR and compliance. Another thing where a lot of people get really anxious about. This is quite new. It's there now since last year, I believe, and this year they're really looking for it. But this is, again, a point which is really easy to do. Because a lot of people think when we talk about GPSR, that it's about the responsibility of the default of a product, for example. But it's not about it. It's more or less that if, for example, you're a company from the United States, if you're from Australia, if you're from whatever in the world you're from, you need to have a contact person in Europe where a person can reach out to at the moment if there are questions. That's all it is. So a lot of companies can help you with this. Companies like, in the UK you don't have this, I believe, GPSR.
Nope.
That's better. In the EU we do have it. Companies like ours, companies on Google, you literally do a GPSR agent and you find it and you pay $50 for a year, I believe, something like that.
What does GPSR stand for?
Oh, that's a really good question.
General
Product Safety Regulation.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that's GPSR. It's more or less about, okay, if something goes bad, who can I reach out to in Europe and who's going to make sure that the contact gets pushed to the next one. That's all it is. So, again, really important point, needs to be done when you go into Europe, but it's just a checkbox you need to cover. The last thing I would like to talk about is the zoom out and helicopter view. What we see a lot of times when we talk to people about fulfillment in the EU is that they're really zooming in on specific points, but they don't look at the goal of the business. So for example, if you're going to do a crowdfunding, what's the goal of the crowdfunding? Is it just to make money? Is it to build your company? What's the goal? The end game should always be, okay, how can I go into distribution? How can I go into the consumer space? Can I sell directly with my web shop to consumers in the EU, also in the United States? Always take a look at these points. Take a look at the whole business case. What do I like to do? What do I not like to do? And find companies who can build your infrastructure. And a lot of times, it doesn't matter if you're a really big one, selling 100,000 copies a year, or a really small one, selling only 3 copies a month. The infrastructure is already there. You just can connect to it, and from there, you're up and running. So that is, in the end, the most important thing. Zoom out, have an helicopter view, talk to the people who are going to help you, and make a really good plan of how you're going to start getting into that market. And use the crowdfunding as the engine to get there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And how we're going to make the EU fulfillment peaceful for itself, basically.